And I wanted to congratulate you on having potentially the first movie to have a werewolf dildo monster. Like this
Thank
film,
you.
this film has a very funny sense of humor. Can you speak to the tone you found for this? Because it just constantly surprised me. I had such a fun time watching it.
Oh, thank you. Well, honestly, I think it just comes from my own very traumatic childhood, and also just like view on the world of like I think people who suffer from I have OCD, and so people who suffer from this shit, like the only way to like really kind of deal with it in this way and is have this kind of morose humor. But also, the entire movie is kind of like my love letter to like pink films of the 70s in Japanese film. And those movies are like balls to the wall, crazy, like saturated color, just like fight scenes, just like weird sex, like all just insanity. And I became obsessed with that when I started learning Japanese 5 years ago, and I wanted to kind of hybridize like my love for the cinema of that era and my own kind of weird personal humor and view on how I kind of deal with my little mental illness stuff. And like that was how it was created and born.
Okay, so you mentioned the weird sex. There's definitely a lot of that in this film. How is it filming those cross-species intercourse scenes? Because like, what possibly prepares you for doing such weird things with tentacles?
Listen,
Like, what was your
listen.
approach?
Yeah. It's so funny how uh kind of like technical sex scenes are in movies, especially kind of alien sex scenes. And so, yeah, especially alien sex scenes are very technical. But because we were doing like completely like practical effects, it was like all hands on deck. And also we had so like from like having like a rigger to like pull Olivia and JJ like into the air and like have the tentacles kind of around. We have like like I wish there was a BTS of this, but basically like there's the camera as we're like slowly going, and then there's like you know like two people over here, one with the remote control tentacle like kind of like working, one with like a puppet tentacle in the back, kind of like moving it over there as my cinematographer is taking these weird lenses and kind of just like shoving them in front of the thing, all while my amazing actress Olivia is trying to sell this idea of being kind of euphoric sex with an alien. And fortunately, we had a really incredible intimacy coordinator, Sasha Smith, who helped us do all of that as well. Because like we're all trying to do these like different things and also keep our actors safe, but also like make it sexy at the same time. And Sasha was able to do everything at the same everything at the same time and make sure we were all there. But it was so funny how it just like okay, well, like Olivia's naked or Lou's naked or we're doing these things and everybody's just so focused and just making sure like the camera's okay and we're all really respectful, but it ends up like coming alive in the edit.
Yeah, they're great scenes. And you mentioned Olivia Taylor. I wanted to ask about her because she's the lead of this film and she's asked to really go for it, and she completely does it. How is it getting her on board? And were you surprised she was willing to go all the way there for every single scene? Because she's
I
going for it. It's
know.
great.
Yeah, I know. It was basically like she came about it in an interesting way. I had an actress that was attached to it that I wrote it for that booked another gig, unfortunately had to drop out. So Olivia actually came pretty late to the game, and she had like we were like a month out from shooting, and she was about to go shoot another movie. And my producer Dave was like, "I think Olivia likes weird." And so he texted her and was like, "Do you like weird? Do you like tentacle sex?" Like, and she was like, "These are buzzwords. Would you like to send me the script?" And so she read the script, and we met an hour later, and like we didn't know each other. It was like one of those things where it's like we kind of have to make the decision really quickly, but we bonded over our shared OCD, and we talked for a while about that. And then I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're on board. You want to do the movie?" And she was like, "Hell yeah!" And then she went away for a month, did another movie, and she came back. And that first day, so that first opening monologue, that's like 8 minutes, that was her first take, first day. So she
Wow.
came right about just like swinging. And I think I love her. I would work with her again in a heartbeat. And she is very, and she's also an executive producer on the movie because I think ultimately that was it, right? Is I was like, when you're doing something like this and I'm asking you to do all these things, like I can't help but give you creative, like help create this movie and create the look and have this some agency and creative control over this. And she was wildly helpful. She was with us from the shoot through the edit, through all of the design stuff, help shaping it. And because I owed that to her because I asked her to do crazy shit.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the opening scene because I wanted to ask about that because she
Yeah,
tells this very long story about an alien encounter. It's mostly the camera's just shot on her face, zooming
yeah,
in. It's a very long shot. What made you want to start that way? Because it really sucked me in, and that's a credit to really her performance and
yeah,
her storytelling there. It's a great
yeah.
scene.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely.
But there's like a million ways that could have gone very wrong, you know?
Oh, trust me. I got questions about it. People were like, "Are you sure?" And I'm just like, "Mm-hmm. Yep." I mean, I think ultimately the entirety of this movie is uh a big swing after big swing after big swing that can either succeed or it could fail. And I wanted to do it because I watched this movie Resurrection, that Rebecca Hall is the star of, and the monologue in there is about halfway through. But I remember watching that movie because I was engrossed by it, but the entire time you're like, what did this guy do to her? And then she gives the monologue, and it's a single, a single take, never cuts away, and she tells the most batshit thing you've ever heard in your fucking life to someone who goes, "Is this a joke?" And like, "Are you fucking with me?" And I was like, "That is some of the cool." And then the movie keeps going, and that was one of the most arresting moments for me that I've ever seen in cinema. That I wanted to recreate that, and I started with it instead of like kind of like doing it halfway through. And ultimately, like I think something I found in the filmmaking is like it's supposed to be set up as if it's not real, and then you find out that it's real. But I think I've realized that with the movie and like when you get the description, it's like everyone's gonna know that it's an actual alien. But you're right, it's really a testament to Olivia's performance. And like I said, it was her first take, first day. And I am so grateful for her because I think, yeah, she's a big part of how she sold it. And I think also the movie is so wild or gets so wild by the end that I wanted to, like everything in that monologue, you preps you for the rest of the movie. And that's kind of my impetus to wanting to start that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned Resurrection. I didn't put those two together, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
now that you mention it, I can totally see that through line, and that film is just crazy as well.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And I did want to ask, I really love the idea that aliens just all wear tracksuits. Where did you come up with this idea?
I really wish I need to just lie and be just like, yeah, this is, but like I really just thought it was funny. Like that is like as far I really wish it was just like, oh yeah, there was a friend I knew who always wore tracksuits and did hip hop dancing. I just like it's almost one of those things where I was like, what is a weird, it's like an alien who's like an alien, but like also does it's like that Lilo and Stitch thing where like the
Yeah.
alien is trying to act like people. And like Brian's like version of that is to like always wear like different multicolored tracksuits and learn hip hop dancing. And like that's his version of like quote unquote being normal. And also eats like chicken tenders and French fries because also essentially he's just like a child at heart. And that's kind of where that where that came from.
I love it. It's so fun seeing his different tracksuits throughout
Yeah.
this. And what kind of was the genesis for Touch Me? Did you have an interest in aliens? What sparked this wonderful weirdness that
Yeah,
came out of
yeah.
this?
I love there's this movie that I watched when I was in the deep dark depression called The Untamed, which was about an alien who is in a shack, like this like kind of tentacle alien that people go to fuck. And I was so sad. And I was like, I want that to happen to me. Like, that's what I really want, and I've been, like I said, I've been learning Japanese for 5 years, and I was really entrenched in the cinema of the era of the 70s. And like, obviously that is all, all a part of that kind of world. And I wanted to basically, I was like pissed that like I like couldn't make my anxiety and depression go away, and I wanted to like use that and explore and explore about it. And so when I kind of created this character, I was also going through like a pretty devastating friendship breakup at the time, which no one talks about friendship breakups. It's like, oh, they suck and they like can really hurt. And so I wanted to make a movie that was like, that explored like kind of mental illness, and also be like just like a wild romp tentacle alien sex like world where I could just like make you laugh and make you think, but also like really make you like have fun and go on this wild ride. And that kind of all glommed on, and thus was the genesis for the movie.
You've mentioned trauma and
Yeah.
learning Japanese. When you watch the film, like clearly so much of that, is you and comes from you. You can
Yeah.
tell speaking with you. And you've written and directed both of your films so far. How is that just experience of really putting yourself into these pieces of arts and feeling brave enough to share that all with the world? Because I would be terrified.
Listen, it's true. I mean, I ultimately like think that I when I was growing up and going through all this stuff, like I um was just kind of an open book about it. I was always afraid to talk about it, and then slowly became an open book about it. And I think art has a way to create community in the type of way that like that I love. And when I made my first movie, Hypochondriac, I found that very, very gratifying and very cathartic when people who had been, because it's about my mental breakdown. It was my first one, and it was like people would come and talk to me, and they would like regale me with their stories, and we would kind of find community in the idea that we all feel kind of less alone. And I think if I can like volunteer as tribute in order to just talk. And also it's like it's therapeutic for me because I think I'm going to spend my entire kind of career deep diving into this like nebulous world of mental crap that I've been forced to deal with. And if I can put it in a way that feels palatable to be viewed, if I can make you laugh, if I can make you, maybe cry or like say ew, like, if I could do all these things, um, and at the same time entertain you, and we could have a conversation about it. Like, what's funny is the amount of people who I've talked to this movie about, and then like come up, I've like found the community of people who have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Like I found them, like, and it's so funny because it's such like an invisible, like no one knows, and like no one like knows like how to necessarily communicate that, because a lot of it exists like in your head, and you hide a lot of it. So if I can, it's terrifying obviously, but I also like love the amount of community that it fosters when somebody else could come to me and talk about their own shit because of something that I've done, and that's very meaningful to me.
And one of my favorite scenes in this film, it's like a flashback sequence, and this guy's on Grinder, but it's presented as
Yeah,
like a silent film.
yeah,
What
yeah, yeah.
what led to that aesthetic choice? I'd love to hear more about that. That just cracked me up so much.
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes me laugh too. Honestly, like twofold. One, it's like it's harkening back to like old like like Universal monster movies, and also like Japanese monster movies like Godzilla, like the whole like 4:3 aspect ratio. And then, but because it was such a modern context, and I really didn't want, we were like, if we're gonna shoot a black and white sequence, how can we have phones in this movie? And I was like, well, what if we did silent film placards as grinder notifications? And then everybody was like, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. And I was like, I really hope this works. And it tickles me. Like a lot, I feel like a lot of it is just like, why? Because I thought it was so funny. Like that's essentially why. Because it just made me laugh. And that whole sequence is like is just like back in time monster movie like aesthetic. Like we do like the psycho music, and also like so of course we can't show a phone, so we're gonna do a silent film placard instead.
I love that. And this is going to be such a fun screening at Sundance. So my
Okay.
last question for you,
Uh,
what does it mean for you to be showing this film at Sundance and for this festival to, really be celebrating such unique and weird and wonderful films like yours?
it's it's like kind of euphoric in a way that I can't really explain. Like no one people like when I was like, "Oh, we got into Sundance," I'm like, "I knew it," and I'm like, "No, you didn't. No one just gets into Sundance, and you're like, yeah, I deserve it. Like, I deserve Sundance." But like, I'm just really grateful to the programmers and to be honest, shocked. Like I like that. Like they like are choosing to program this like weird little story like mine. And what's even crazier is like Adam Montgomery, who did our little blurb on Sundance, got the movie exact. And I was like, that's why. Like they understood it in a way that like I didn't expect like anybody to. Because it's like, you do something and you're like, this might go over a lot of people's heads. I don't know. But like they got it in a way that I don't like. And I'm like Anne Hathaway, like winning an Oscar. It's like it came true. Like, it like really was like it really is that thing where you can't like I'll probably never get this again. And obviously it's nerve-wracking and there's all this like kind of stakes to it, but at the same time, like I made it into Sundance. That's so crazy. And I can put that in my bucket, my little feather in my hat, and like that, that'll take me at least until next year. And then I'll get sad again. But like that to me, I mean it means the world.